How do you rate a hospital director tied to 23 shell corporations across Nevada, Belize, and Panama without tipping off a cartel? The answer isn't a battering ram. It's an intel network. High-intensity drug trafficking areas program. Threat assessments, intelligence centers, and deconfliction that green-lit every door knock at the exact second. And yes, we'll get inside the Everett seizure of 2.5 tons of narcotics and the rescue of 9 kidnapped victims. Watch to learn the quiet systems that turned encrypted emails like "move the patients tonight" into actionable arrests before sunrise. How does a respected hospital director draw a silent red circle on an analyst's dashboard without a single patrol car moving? You start with the front door that no one sees. Northwest HIDA runs threat assessments that score entities against risk signals long before probable cause exists. The ICE screens tips, open records, and bank alerts, then sends triage notes to task force leads. In this case, a handful of donations landed as procurement fees, routed through vendor accounts tied to Whitlock's cluster of shell companies. The entries read like routine philanthropy: endowment pledges, a grant for imaging upgrades, a service retainer for biomedical logistics. But the fee structures didn't match hospital norms. Percent-based procurement charges appeared where flat maintenance contracts should be. The hospital's brand legitimacy acted like a mask. On paper, it looked like charity logistics: pallets marked as relief goods, equipment swaps for rural clinics, courier runs labeled patient transfer support. The pattern didn't break until calendar overlays lined up. Ferry schedules, port shift changes, and after-hours receiving matched cadence the task forces know from narcotics corridors, right down to the midweek lull and the pre-dawn pushes before terminal crews rotate. The first thread was small enough to miss. A controlled substance reconciliation flagged a fractional shortage in a quarterly audit. The discrepancy wasn't large, but it sat next to an internal note about a grant-funded equipment refresh. The grant traced to a Nevada nonprofit with 2 correspondent banking nodes, one exposed to Belize, one to Panama. That route is legal on paper, but the timing made it glow. Funds hit just ahead of a weekend ferry manifest that listed medical disposables by weight class, with no serial capture for high-value items. Here's where the ICE earns its keep. The center fuses suspicious activity reports, deconfliction pings, and open-source corporate filings across counties, then pushes a composite score back to case agents without tipping the target. SAR metadata establishes transaction behavior and counterparties. Deconfliction pings reveal whether another unit already has a related event on the board. Secretary of State filings and foreign registry scraps expose shared officers, addresses, and formation agents. Tie that to port data, hospital receiving logs, and pharmacy inventory intervals, and you get a heat map of risk that stays invisible to the subject. One analyst ran an alias pass on a procurement vendor. The business looked clean under its current name, but a past HSI Seattle sweep had tagged a sister entity for trade irregularities. The corporate registry had changed jurisdictions and directors, yet the contact email stem and freight forwarder ID matched. That was enough to tighten the aperture. ICE assigned a joint cell. FBI took financial, HSI took trade fraud lanes, and DEA focused on diversion risk. They lined up ferry cargo manifests with hospital equipment deliveries and reconciled serials against purchase orders. Freight weights matched equipment classes, but there were gaps in manufacturer lot trails. Meanwhile, IBIT contacts along the border fed timing notes on crosspoints. The team pulled encrypted snippets from parallel cases, short lines that hinted at urgency. Move the patients tonight. Border team ready. The chatter suggested human movement concealed inside medical transfers, but warrants were not deconflicted and entry windows were not aligned. If they jumped early, they'd burn sources and lose the shipment. Analysts identified Whitlock through fusion, not a single tip. Financial anomalies pushed the score up. Controlled substance audits exposed timing gaps. Transport schedules mirrored known DTO patterns. Shared risk models stacked those signals until the name stayed at the top of the board long enough to justify the handoff. Now the challenge shifts. Spotting the network is one game. Hitting it without tripping into another task force is another. The next move brings out the special weapons you never see. SafeNet and RIS, the systems that turn parallel cases into one clock. So how do 600 officers hit 12 cities without crushing a source, crashing into each other, or blowing a warrant window? They rely on a split-screen system that keeps every move on schedule. One track is operational deconfliction, the day of safeguard that alerts agencies when an enforcement action in one place threatens another nearby. The other is event deconfliction, which schedules the when and locks in time slots so parallel teams don't collide. HIDTA task forces plug into platforms built for this job. SafeNet on one side, RISS on the other. So the notifications travel fast and conflicts get resolved before a single door opens. Here's the pressure point. FBI teams are primed on finance. HSI is pushing the human trafficking angles. DEA is watching the narcotics flow, and local detectives are holding weapons cases that can carry their own deadlines. Each crew has a defensible plan. But if one entry happens 60 minutes early, the rest of the network learns and scatters. That's why the stack matters. Target deconfliction checks names, locations, and dates, so investigators see that another case already touches the same subject. Event deconfliction assigns hours and minutes, handing out windows so two warrants on adjacent blocks don't trigger each other. Case deconfliction prevents duplicate prosecutions by routing overlapping matters to a coordinated strategy before indictments lock in. SafeNet, the secure automated fast event target network, sits at the center of that picture for HIDTA. It's run by a consortium of high-intensity drug trafficking areas program, and agencies plug in to submit targets and events, then get alerts if someone else is on the same lane. RISS provides its own deconfliction program and ties in members across regions, while NDPIX carries pointer checks on drug targets. Some task forces also run through Case Explorer for case and event entries, and NVPS bridges systems so a single entry can expose whether another unit is already chasing the same person. None of this is glamorous. It's timestamps, IDS, and alerts that stop friendly fire in real time. Now scale it. The University District DTO takedown brought 11 defendants and around 600 officers under one operational umbrella. That doctrine translates to the Seattle-Everett footprint because the moving pieces are similar. Dense targets, overlapping jurisdictions, and shared corridors to the port. When Whitlock's lanes touched Belize and Panama corporate fronts, the board added a cross-border layer. DOJ's MLARS became the legal conduit, and international deconfliction made sure mutual legal assistance did not slip past the domestic strike. You don't serve a port warehouse warrant in Everett while a foreign bank freeze order lands 30 minutes late. You line them up. The operational picture looked like 4 clocks on a wall. Seattle Hospital, Whitlock's residence, Everett Port Warehouse, a Nevada office mail drop. SafeNet checks ran first, clearing conflict flags and pushing contact notices to case agents. RISS entries mirrored those checks for agencies that live in that network. When the alerts came back clean or resolved, event deconfliction assigned windows down to the minute, and case deconfliction locked the prosecutorial path so evidence routing would stand up later. Then the encrypted line went silent. No more hints about movement. Logistics became the trigger. Ferry manifests for the next cycle signaled a pre-dawn push that matched previous offload patterns. The clock advanced without chatter, and the schedule held. SafeNet and RISS matter because they stopped blue on blue, sequenced the warrants, and fixed second-by-second timing across teams. That alignment led to the Everett seizure. 2.5 tons of narcotics, 324 weapons, and $52 million in assets, with 9 hostages pulled out alive. The raid landed because the network behind the badges stayed invisible and synced. The headline is the seizure. The hero is the system that kept every door on time while the ferries rolled and the warehouse lights warmed for another medical delivery. The raid worked because HIDTA turned scattered clues into one clock. Threat scores, audit gaps, and transport timelines became a single schedule that every team followed without crossing wires or losing sources. That discipline saved lives and preserved the case. Support the system that made it possible. Push for transparency on how deconfliction works, and fun training so more officers can use it well. Intelligence sharing only protects people when the data moves where it should. If you want more deep dives into the tools behind high-stakes takedowns, stay with us for the next Operation Breakdown. The next case shows how timing wins before doors move.